what if you're living your life the way you are simply because it's the way you were told to live it and not the way you were actually meant to live your life? In today's episode of Her Purpose, I sit down with Caroline Brown, former nurse, high achiever, recovering people pleaser, who bravely shares how she broke free from the boxes that she was told to fit in. We talk about rediscovering your voice after years of silencing it, honoring the dreams that you once buried, and creating a life that actually feels like yours. If you've ever felt like you're checking all the boxes, but you still feel disconnected, this conversation is your permission slip to do things differently. Caroline, you are now coaching women, and we'll talk about that. I'm super excited to talk about that. But growing up, what did you think you were going to do? Like in high school or even in elementary school?
Well, what I thought I was going to do was definitely not this. I had a lot of big dreams, and I wanted to breed horses. I wanted to work.
Me too.
I wanted to work with deaf children. I never had any normal dreams. I wasn't like, I want to be a teacher when I grow up, or I want to be a nurse when I grow up, which is what I became. I had a lot of big dreams, and none of them, I was always told they were too big. They were too much. I needed to be more in the box. I needed to think more.
Now, were you outwardly told that, or was that messaging that you received?
I think both. I remember, and I don't remember this from my parents, actually. I think that was the message that was received was, it's great to have dreams, but also it needs to fit in the box. You need to be able to, in my family, show up and be a good mom, take care of your kids, not work all the time, have a job that works with taking care of your kids, and it has to be respectable. And then I do specifically remember having friends tell me, even come college, stop being such a dreamer. You've got to find something that fits in the box. You've got to find something that you're actually going to make money at.
Like, what were some of the other things that in high school that you were thinking that your friends said that's not realistic?
Well, breeding horses, owning horses. I had a lot of horse dreams. Owning a barn, basically all the things having to do with horses. What else do I want to do?
You have horses now?
Sign language for a long time, and I really wanted to work with deaf children. I don't know why, and that one wasn't really that out of the box, but I remember feeling like it wasn't in the box enough either. Like, what exactly would I do with that would work with the life that I was kind of expected to live?
And you don't know where that desire to serve those people came from?
No idea.
Interesting.
Yeah, no idea where that one came from.
So when you went to college, what did you originally go to college for?
I went to college. My first major was I believe my first major was business and marketing. Took my first class, microeconomics, hated it, dropped it, and started going through the handbook of all the options of careers. And that took me down a long path. I ended up having 9 majors in college. And
what were they all? Well,
I don't even think I could remember them all. I actually physically went and changed it every single time. But it was just I felt so pulled to be a certain kind of person and fit in a certain kind of box. And I kept choosing majors that felt like they would be that person. They would be able to get me a career that landed me like making enough money, being able to show up for my family, not working all the time, but having a respectable job. And let's see, I do know it was business. I majored in nutrition for a hot minute. I majored in Spanish for a minute. That was interesting. And then I ended with nursing. And I don't remember what else fell in there in between. There was 9 of them.
And so of all those 9, were any of those choices things that you felt this is what I'm called to do, or this is what I should do?
They were all, this is what I should do. I should have a good job. They were all what I should do. Every single one. And I would say the only reason I had 9 was because by the time I got to college, I didn't really know who I was. I didn't really know what I loved anymore. I had been so busy. I spent my whole life people pleasing. I had been so busy people pleasing and perfecting and doing everything that made everyone else their lives better that I didn't really know what I wanted. So I just sat there flipping through thinking what job would make everyone in my life happy or be what I'm expected to do. And at no point did I feel like I was just choosing for me. And I didn't even really know how. And I didn't know that at the time either. I didn't recognize it.
Right. Well, we're experiencing that, but we can't put words to it. We don't understand it until later in life because of life experiences exposing these things to us. So you finished college as a nurse. How long did you work as a nurse?
I worked as a nurse on and off for 13 years. So the first 7 years strong, and then in and out of jobs because it just never resonated with me. It never fit my life. And I had, like I said, spent my whole life people pleasing, perfecting, and I was trying to do that there too, right? I was trying to control everything, right down to I became a nurse in an EP lab, which is an electrophysiology lab, which just means we put in pacemakers and devices. And I liked to control the lab. I liked to call in the vendors that I liked. I wanted to make sure that doctors had everything they needed. I was on top of all of it. I mean, to the world, I was great. I was doing all the right things, right? Like I showed up on time. I was a high achiever. I checked all the boxes. I did all the things right. But for me inside, I was so disconnected from what mattered to me or what was important to me.
How did you come to the point that you realized that that wasn't going to continue to work for you?
Nursing? Well, I didn't come to that until I was at least 38 years old. It took me most of my life. I'm 42 now. It took me most of my life to figure out that what I was doing was not what was important to me. And it took me that long to start to realize how much I had lost my voice and how much I wasn't being true to myself. And I didn't know who that was. So with nursing, what took me away from it was more that it just felt really out of alignment. Like I did not like a lot of things in the hospital. I didn't like having patients come in and slapping Band-Aids on things and then sending them home to live the same exact life. So, it just didn't align with me. And I didn't even know what that word meant back then. But it didn't feel good. And I also didn't love leaving my babies at home to do a job that I didn't really care about.
Now, was there a pivotal moment experience, or was it just this slow grind? Like,
it was more of a slow grind. I would say from the moment I had my oldest daughter, I no longer loved working in the hospital. I loved being in charge of things. I loved, I was that high achiever. I loved getting the gold stars for being so good at my job. But the moment I had her, what was important to me changed. And I finally really felt that. And I was like, okay, I don't want to leave her in a daycare and go work for someone else all day. Nothing about this is important to me or lights me up or excites me. But I didn't feel like there was any other options. I mean, I spent hours upon hours sitting at my kitchen table after that, looking for jobs that would be exciting to me. But again, I had to pick something in the box and I couldn't find anything. So I would just go and apply for yet another job that I didn't want. And I would take it usually in another hospital and work there for a year. And I would hate it. And then I would finally leave. And then a year later, I'd be applying for jobs again. It was like a vicious cycle. Every year around September, I'd be like, I'm good. I'm not going to try and do this again. And then come January, I was applying for jobs. And by March, I had a new one. It was just around and around we go because I wanted something more. I wanted to feel like I had a purpose. There's nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home mom. But for me, I wanted something more. I wanted to contribute. I wanted to really be connected to a purpose. And I just would sit there knowing there is more for me and I don't know what it is. I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, you feel this calling. You know you're meant to do something. You're meant to impact the world. Was there someone else that modeled that for you that helped you see that there was a different way?
Not really.
How did you discover it?
How did I discover it? I just had a deep sense. I didn't know that I was stepping into any calling at the time. I just had a deep sense that I wanted to contribute and there was more for me than where I was at. I had no idea. I would say, and I think my mom did the best she could, and I hate to bring her into this, but she lived a very in the box life. So if I look at the women in my life, they all lived a pretty in the box life. They did what they were supposed to. They didn't do anything that was too big or scary. They took care of their husbands. There was a lot of stay-at-home moms in my family. And that was a big part of what held me back for a long time is I had this image and expectation of who I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to show up for my kids. I'm supposed to put everyone else above myself. And so I can't really say that I had someone who modeled that. I just had a deep knowing that there was something more, even if I had no idea what that would look like.
At some point, though, you did discover coaching.
Mm-hmm.
How did you discover coaching?
Yeah. And that it came at the perfect time. So I remember I had a very clear moment when I was sitting on my couch one night, and it was the moment where I was like, something has to change. I have to make a choice and go after something, make some kind of movement. I was sitting there drinking a couple glasses of wine. I was like, I might as well open another bottle. I have nothing I'm excited about tomorrow. And I remember just sitting there crying. It actually makes me a little like teary to think about it. And just being like, that is so sad that I have nothing I'm excited to get up for tomorrow. Like I have 2 kids. I'm going to take them to school. I had built the life that was perfect on paper, right? Like on paper, I was doing all the things that I should do. But I was so disconnected from who I was, what I loved, and I just felt like there was nothing for me. Like the only good things in my life were going to be going to their weddings someday. And like, I don't know. That moment was like, okay, it's time. We have to make a change. We have to go ahead and create some sort of movement. So I started another hunt. And honestly, I don't know how I found nurse coaching. I always say it kind of found me. It showed up on my Facebook feed one day and I clicked it and I kind of thought it was a scam. And then I did an application call with them and I was like, okay, this is real. But still, to me, coaching was not a real job. It wasn't an acceptable job. It wasn't an in the box job.
Why did you think that? What made you think that about coaching specifically?
Yeah. So I come from a family of doctors, and I think there is a lot of people in my family who maybe don't have as much respect for the mind energy side of things. And it's more just like science, go to school, get the right job, do the right thing, science based. And I had just taken away the belief that that was a job that people get when they can't get any other job. But I would say it's from a lifetime of not really respecting things like that are a little outside the box. Like I said, like I was raised very in the box. So anything that was outside the box, like if you're going to say you have migraines and like maybe meet with a chiropractor about it, that was outside the box. Like anything outside the box was not respectable.
Mm-hmm. But there was some part of you that thought, but maybe this could be something I could. What was it that made you overcome that?
I owe a lot of that to my friends and my husband. When I was kind of bouncing it off them, I was like, I don't know. And they were all like, you would be so good at that. And I was like, I don't really know. I don't know if that's for me. Like, what am I going to do? Sit in a room with people? Is this like being a therapist?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just, they were so encouraging, and I desperately wanted a change. So I was willing to give it a try. And I will say I sat through the first month of my coaching program very cynical, rolling my eyes at them and all their woo-woo stuff. Now, if any of my clients were to ever see this, I can't do enough woo-woo stuff. I love woo-woo. But back then I came from a very science family. So I was like, you guys are crazy and this is not helpful.
And when you talk about woo-woo, you're talking about just limiting beliefs, the way our thoughts create our realities, our patterns, right?
Yeah, and just dropping in meditations, mindfulness, breath work, all of that stuff. I love incorporating that. I love incorporating like the body, mind, energy, and getting in touch with like what's there under the surface. Because for women especially, we live so much in our heads. So being able to drop out of your head and into your body and into your experience is so important. But I didn't know that then.
So this coaching program that you decided to do, how long was that? Was it like a certification, or was it more of, how long was it?
So it was 7 months. I'm actually a nurse coach, which I don't tell people because everyone thinks I coach nurses, but it's for nurses, and it's just training nurses specifically how to integrate their nursing experience with coaching. So it's 7 months long. We did 120 pro bono hours of coaching in that program.
Now, when you're coaching, you're a nurse who became a coach, but you don't coach nurses. Who are you mostly focused on coaching?
Yeah, so I mostly coach high-achieving women who have checked all the boxes and built the life that they think they're supposed to, and feel really empty in that and are ready to reclaim their fire, reclaim their voice, and build a life they are actually excited about. So a lot of times that looks like creating a life and business and finding their purpose.
Now, how many are actually changing careers? The women that you're coaching, are they changing careers a lot of the time, or are they just...
Most of the time. Most of the time they want to build a business or do something that feels more like their purpose. Now, not all of the time. Sometimes it's just reconnecting with yourself and your voice and doing something that doesn't have to be a job. It doesn't always have to be a job. Like your purpose can be something that you love doing, and maybe you don't want to work, and that's okay too. But most of the time they are finding their voice, creating visibility, and stepping into their purpose.
How much did you find yourself in the program versus in this new career?
I would say it's equal, both. In the program, when I started coaching people, that was like the big aha moment of, oh my gosh, I love this. And this is what I was always meant to do. Like it was so fulfilling and so natural for me. And within 3 months, I mean, I did not wait to start my business till I graduated because we didn't have to. I started my business 3 months before I even graduated the program. Within a couple, I would say 6 weeks into the program, after I did my first pro bono, I was like, I'm starting a business. I love this. I'm doing this. Nothing can stop me now. So part of it, I found myself, I started to reconnect with myself while I was in the program. I started to find my voice. I started to find my gifts and trust myself. And then a lot of it happened after in like really stepping into it. And as we know, when you start a business, like creating visibility and really learning to get so comfortable with myself was a big part of the process.
Now, was that a struggle? Did you have a hard time with that?
Yes, I did not want to be visible. I remember telling my very first coach, I do not want to build a business online. I have no desire to build a business online. It's just not who I am. And people say this to me all the time. There's that part of us, there's that limiting belief where we think that's just not who we are, right? That's just not what I'm meant to do. And I was completely blocked on that. I'm not doing it. And of course, we dug into it. And when it hit me, it was like a full-on wave through my body, that realizing that was just my nervous system trying to keep me safe. And I remember just crying and being like, oh my gosh, I can do anything I want to. I can be visible if I want to. So that was kind of like the beginning of it. And since then, I love nervous system work. I've kind of dove into incorporating nervous system work with what I do, and becoming visible. And that has been my really big growth journey, is getting so comfortable being. I could have never come on this podcast 3 years ago. Never. I couldn't sit in a group of women, and if they went around and said, like, what's something about you? I would just cry and want to leave, like full flight, take me to a cave and hide me. I did not want to be seen. So,
Was there something that happened growing up where you were seen and it was dangerous?
I have thought about that a lot, and I don't have one specific moment, but I have about 100 small moments where, I'm in class and I said something stupid and everyone laughed, or I fell down the steps at graduation. Like, there's 1,000 little moments, but there isn't one that takes over. But I think more so, my house growing up was pretty chaotic. My oldest brother struggled with OCD and ODD. When you hear something, you have the desire to do the exact opposite. When you're told to do something, you're like physically have the desire to do the exact opposite.
Your parents, I would imagine your parents struggled with that, and you saw chaos to some degree.
Yeah, so it was really disruptive. It caused a lot of chaos in our house. And, my parents did their best to manage it and create like a happy home. But my nervous system did what all of ours do, and it started to keep me safe. So I kept myself small. I went into people pleasing from the time I was little. Like, I could take care of everybody else. I could make the world more safe by being the easy one, right? Like, I could be perfect. I could be the high achiever. I could check all the boxes and do all the things right so that everyone else felt a little bit safer and a little bit calmer. So I really think that's where my visibility came from, was trying to keep myself safe and just trying to control everything around me to make sure that I didn't put myself out there too much and draw too much attention. Like, I wouldn't want to take up too much space in any conversation. I wouldn't want to take up too much time. I wouldn't want to shine too much and have someone else not have their opportunity. Everything was about everyone around me. So being visible just felt super unsafe.
How has the transformation of being the person that's so afraid of being seen, then becoming the woman who is seen as the guiding light for all these other women, right? A spark of hope for other women. How has that transformation been?
Well, I think it's amazing to help people step into something that was a previous version of you. Because for one, I can fully understand where they are and what they're struggling with and what the fear feels like. For me, the transformation kind of took a deep dive. And I was catapulted forward a few months into my business when my best friend passed away. And that really was, I'll go a little deeper in that. So she passed away about 4 months into starting my business, and I had already been on the visibility track. I had already been starting to build visibility, starting to build safety to show up online, but it was a very slow progression, right? And then her family asked me to give the eulogy at her funeral. And I immediately was like, no, I cannot do that. I can't speak. I didn't pass my speaking class in college. I just cry when people look at me. Like, when people would look at me, my whole body would shut down. I couldn't read. I couldn't see the words in front of me. My heart would go crazy. My mouth would go dry. I couldn't think, none of it, like total stage fright. And something in me shifted the day before her funeral. I was like, felt like this pull. I like to say it was like her from beyond the grave giving me like a little kick in the butt. Just do this. And I felt this pull, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and give it. And it was the first time that I was able to, her funeral was massive. There were over 1,000 people there. I'm not sure how many, because I was just focusing on the people in front of me. But it was the first time where I was able to stay in something allow it to be so highly uncomfortable and allow myself to just step through it. And I remember after, it was the first time where I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I survived that and I don't ever want to do it again. I was like, wow, like I did that and it actually felt good. I'm really glad I did it. And that just built from there. So that was like a huge growth moment. And suddenly, like showing up online didn't feel scary. Like it was like my nervous system took a giant leap that day into being able to show up and be visible and have people look at me and realize I actually did have gifts and I actually did have a voice and I actually did have a story.
Yeah. How much of your life did you feel like you didn't have a story?
Most of it. I always said I had no story to tell. I was like the boring person. My life had been pretty basic, right? I had lived in the box. So there wasn't really much for me to share.
So do you feel that you look at your life differently and now you recognize that you had a story all along? Or do you feel that you created a story worth telling?
I feel like I had a story all along. And I just didn't see it that way. Even all the little moments, I was on a walk recently and there was like a little moment from my childhood that my mom had told me about. It was about a project that I had been creating and how I was perfecting it. And I was also working on a workshop at the time about perfection.
This was in your coaching,
in my coaching containers, I was doing a workshop and I was thinking about this story in my life and I was just had this moment on the walk where I was like, oh my gosh, every moment, my entire life has worked together to like bring me here, to bring me to this moment where I'm getting to help other people find their purpose and find their story because I never thought I had one.
So just, I don't know if you want to give an exact example, but maybe an actual client. Talk a little bit about the transformation that you've been able to bring through your coaching for a client, like their before and after of how they were living and how they're living now from working with you.
Yeah. So a lot of let me try to think of this. I don't know if I want to give a very specific one because a lot of my people know of each other. But I would say the before and after is typically, I work with a lot of moms and they have checked all the boxes. So they've had like a good job that they love, kind of, because it checks all the boxes, but they feel robotic in it. Like it just feels like they're going and doing the thing and they don't feel super present at home. They feel pretty resentful and angry, a little bit unseen. Like they do so much for everyone else and no one really sees them, knows them, hears them. So we really reconnect with their voice, reconnect with who they are, what they actually love. One of the hardest questions for people I work with to answer is, what do you love? Like not your kids, not your husband, you. And so reconnecting to that and rebuilding a life that actually feels like theirs. So on the other side, getting to build a business that they absolutely love, getting to wake up and show up for their kids and actually be excited to hang out with them and feel like what they're going and doing in the world matters to them. Like, I don't believe that we're meant to not live with purpose. I think every single one of us, whether it's your job or something you're doing in the world, are meant to live with a purpose.
And how much in your experience have you seen that that purpose is tied directly to an experience or life that they've lived prior to uncovering it? People think that they find their purpose. I don't agree with that statement, but I want to hear what your thoughts are on that.
I don't agree with that statement either. And I think a lot of times our gifts and the things that lead into our purpose are hidden in the things that we were told we're not good at. So like, for instance, I can think of one person who, what did she say? She's not good at business. She likes to have fun too much. And that can be your superpower. Like, what if instead of looking at it as like, this is something bad about me. This is something I'm not good at. What if it's the thing that you're meant to give to the world? Like, what if it's the thing that you are actually so good at? So
Yeah.
often your purpose is just hidden in all the things that have been kind of beaten down about you and all the ways that you've been told you shouldn't, you're too loud or too sensitive. Like if you're too sensitive and you feel like you can't bring that to the world, and then you get to show up and support other people who feel like they're too sensitive and they can't be who they are, like that feels really good.
Oh, I feel that deeply. How many of the women that you have coached that have transitioned have gone into a similar type career and are now coaching other people?
A lot of them. But I also work with women who are doing other things, building a bakery or a consulting company for a hospital or and something in engineering. And it doesn't, I always tell them this, it doesn't really matter what you're building, what kind of business you're building. The fears, the self-doubt, all the things that go into it are the same. They all show up the same.
And overcoming them is the same process. It doesn't matter what business you're going into or how you want to show up differently to overcome those fears, like your nervous system work. It's all the same process. So once you know, and you know it so intimately because you lived it, then you can help other people through that transformational process. That's all coaching is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. I really wonder how many people have any idea what all the different variations there are in coaching people and helping people through problems. There's so many.
Probably not unless they're in the coaching world. I know that I definitely would not have. I just thought there's coaches. I didn't know what they did. Now I would never not have a coach because I find that you get in your head so fast and the limiting beliefs are so sneaky and they pop up and we just don't know when we're keeping ourselves stuck. Like if we go into freeze, we don't know that we're frozen. We just think, oh, that's something I can't do. That's something that's not possible for me. But we're all limitless in what we can do. It's just a matter of being able to recognize and call out all the things that are keeping you stuck, all the mindsets, all the beliefs that we walked away from childhood with. So yeah, when you say, is your purpose something you find? No, it's there building itself through your whole life, probably.
It's you coming back to yourself, rediscovering who you were all along, but who you told yourself you weren't allowed to be, or who you allowed the world to tell you you weren't allowed to be. But I think when we accept that we allow that instead of we're victims to it, that's where real transformation happens.
Yeah, it's noticing it's like you've put yourself in this. I was on a call last week and talking about my messaging. And we talked about how it's like being in a glass box where it's like limiting beliefs, expectations, all the things that have led you to who you think you're supposed to be your whole life. And like learning to like bust through those. And like, then you've got all these little pieces that you could like put back together like a mosaic. And that's where it's like really beautiful, right? Like all the pieces of your life, all those limiting beliefs, like we don't want to just say, they don't matter. They do matter. They're a part of your story. They're a part of what makes you.
I'm super curious because you mentioned this earlier, and I know how I feel about it, but a lot of people probably wonder, is that just expensive therapy? How would you describe the difference between therapy work and coaching?
Yeah. And I will say I've had a lot of people come out of therapy and start working with me. And I've also helped people get to the point where they can go to therapy if they don't feel like they can drive in their car to get there. But my favorite way to explain it is therapy is based on healing and going back, and coaching is based on forward movement. So with coaching, we meet a lot more often, and it's all about creating the future. Yes, sometimes we go back, but if it's going back and it's not something you can talk through, work through, I'm going to send you to therapy, right? Like they're totally different and also very in line with each other.
They're interconnected. They're absolutely interconnected. And you have to understand your past to create the future to some degree. But I think if you get stuck in just rehashing the past over and over and over, then you never create a different future. And if you're never given the tools and resources to think differently, to react differently, to change what we believe about ourselves and others, then you just stay in the same pattern.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to be able to recognize which one somebody needs. because sometimes you need to be in therapy and you need to heal those past traumas and heal that part of yourself. And other times, like, therapy's almost keeping you stuck because you are ready for forward movement. And sitting and focusing on the past is not going to help you create that forward movement.
You said earlier that you felt like you had nothing that you were lit up about. How do you feel? How is it different now doing what you do now every day? Like, how does it feel as Caroline now?
It feels amazing. I love getting up and doing my job. I could not have imagined a life where I would want to work in the summer when my kids are off school, or I would be excited about what I'm doing. But I absolutely love the women that I work with, and I love doing what I do because I know how much it changes their lives, because I know where they're at and I know what's possible for them. It's like being a vision holder where I get to like reflect back like the most beautiful vision that they have and hold it up for them and help them move towards it. And it feels really good to be putting out, I'm not putting out people in the world, but I'm giving women a mic to create what they love and what's important to them, so that then they can go out in the world and do something amazing that wouldn't have existed otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How would you said this too, that everyone should have a coach. You have a coach as a coach. I think if you're a coach and you don't have a coach, that's almost hypocritical. But how much does a coach continue to support your journey? And has your coaching that you've sought out changed over the years, or has it been the same coach?
No, I've had two different coaches. And I think it changes based on where I'm at and what I'm looking for. It's definitely changed over time. At first I just wanted someone to help me get over the fear and build a business. And now it is, my coach is somatically trained, is doing a lot of the deeper work, interweaving that and like recognizing when I am hitting a limit in myself and need to expand into something new. So it's definitely changed. And I would not be where I am today without the support that I've had. If I went back and gave myself one piece of advice, it would be not to have, like, I've had little breaks in coaching, and I would not have had those, because that's when I slowed down and got stuck every single time.
Because then we get into our heads. We start believing the stories.
Yeah, maybe I'm not good at this. Maybe I wasn't meant to do this.
Yep. Are there any books that you've read along the way that have been impactful?
So one of my favorite books is Do Less by Kate Northrup. I think mostly because I work with a lot of high achieving women, and learning to rest is really, really hard, and learning to listen to our bodies. So that is one of my favorite books. I usually recommend it at some point for people to read. I think it describes what your body is doing and syncing with your cycle for productivity so well.
What is the best advice that you've received in your career or life?
Probably just to take a step. Like, I think so often we think we need to know the whole mountain. We need to know where we're going. And this was from a friend of mine when I found my coaching program. She was like, just take a step and try it, right? And that sounds like such small advice, but sometimes when you're stuck, you just have to take a first step. It's not about knowing where you're going.
Can you imagine if you hadn't taken that course?
No, I would still be in the same place. I would still be sitting at my kitchen table, wondering if there's something wrong with me.
How many people do you feel are wondering, is there something wrong with me?
A lot of people. I feel like I hear that so often, that I'm not enough, that maybe I'm broken, that maybe I just like missed the boat and did the wrong things. And usually you're just not connected to yourself, and you just don't really know what you want.
How do you advise or coach your clients to that journey? Obviously, you can't give that whole process in this podcast, but what are the main things that you focus on to help them go through that transformational process?
Yeah, a lot of it is reconnecting with themselves and their voice, learning to trust their intuition again, learning what that looks like, feels like. As women, we live in our heads all the time. So slowing down and listening to their intuition and empowering them to trust themselves, like to trust that voice and to lean into that.
Mm-hmm. I think men and women, we forget or are trained not to trust ourselves.
Yeah, it comes from it's like a lifetime of society and cultural norms, like literally. And I think this is a lot my generation. We were taught to be more polite, right? Be polite. Don't get up and leave the room if you're uncomfortable. So that's not trusting yourself. That's teaching you to not listen to that inner voice that says, I'm not comfortable in this place. I want to get up and leave. Like, it's okay to trust your own voice. I have teenagers and I tell them all the time, trust yourself. If you feel really uncomfortable, I don't care if you're in a doctor's office, where you are, you can get up and leave. And they're like, but we can't do that. I'm like, yes, you can. You can do that. And I hear my intuition so loud now, and I never knew that was a thing before.
So when you go back, what did you call that when you heard it before?
I don't think I heard it.
Really?
I think I had pushed it down so much for so long that I truly just lived in my head. It was really, really hard for me to learn to get out of my head. And maybe it was there on some level, but it was so not something I could hear, tune into, or notice. Like those feelings, like I get a very clear, yes, this is next. No, this is not. I did not have any of that.
And then now having the courage to verbally express yourself honestly with people around you without the fear of how they may receive it. I heard this morning, actually, and I don't love this entirely, but it's really powerful. You can't break generational curses if you're still trying to please the generation that is cursed. Oof. I was like, oh, I don't believe our entire generation before us is cursed. So there's a part of it that's a little bit extreme. But if you're still people pleasing, you're not changing any patterns.
Yeah, it's so true. And, people pleasing is so sneaky. It can sneak in when you're trying to change generational patterns, when you're trying to, it can sneak in when I'm trying to support my clients. Like it can sneak in where I'm like, ooh, am I people pleasing you a little bit? Right? Like it's such a sneaky one. And it's so important to bring awareness to it and notice it. I like that quote. I don't like the whole curse thing either, but but it's so true. You can't change something if you're trying to please other people. You have to be in tune with what's going on for you.
Yeah, I don't love the curse thing because I feel that it's shaming. And that's one of the biggest problems that we have, is that we have a world that's operating in shame and guilt instead of freedom. And so
our parents, their generation, did the best they could with I believe people did the best they could with the knowledge that they had, the information that they had, and with the world that they were living in, right? It's different. It's different for us.
Yeah, and even us today, everyone is doing the best they can with what they have and with what they know. And the other thing that I think is really important is that everything that everyone does makes perfect sense to them. Everything that everyone does around us makes perfect sense to them based on their filters, their perspectives, their emotions, their stories, their beliefs. And so I really don't love when we villainize people, generations, all of this, because at the end of the day, we're all humans living this human experience, trying to figure it out, doing the best that we can with what we know, and then trying to better ourselves or not.
Yeah. And I think it's funny you say trying to better ourselves or not. I will say to any woman who's listening to this, who's like, I don't know if I need to grow. I went on when we were in our coaching program, you have to be someone's pro bono client and you have to coach them. And I remember going on and being like, I mean, I'm fine. I'm totally fine, right? Because as high achieving women, we can do anything. We can show up and push through and keep going and be fine. But fine isn't really what we're going for. I could have kept going. I was burnt out and I didn't know it. I'd been living in a very go, go, go state for so long. I didn't know any different.
As far as when you're talking about your nursing career as a nurse?
Yeah, as a nurse, as a mom, as a wife, as a daughter, I could just keep pushing.
You have to be radically honest with yourself to really recognize that the way we're living isn't the way we want to continue living, but we're also responsible for it.
Yeah.
Not not to victim blame, but the choices that we make every single day. Are we prioritizing the things that we know we want to do on a regular basis? And we can tell ourselves, oh, I have to take care of them and I have to do this for this person and this person needs me for that. But at the end of the day, it's up to us to decide, okay, today I'm going to do that workout instead of worrying about the laundry or the grocery shopping or the appointments that need to be made or whatever it might be, and it's those little micro decisions that we make as moms that are putting ourselves second always, and then building up all this resentment over I'm always having to take care of everybody else. Well, at the end of the day, you choose that.
Yeah, those little micro habits make a really big difference. And anytime someone tells me they don't have enough time, that's not real. You have enough time. You have exactly enough time for all the things that are important to you.
Time is an interesting thing. I heard this recently and I thought it was so interesting that time is not always, it's not something you can actually quantify. And if you think about how time passes when you're sitting in a class that you're bored to tears because you can't stand the information, how slow does time go versus how fast does time go when you're at the water park with your kids? It's not moving at the same, it's not actually what we think it is.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the book that talks about that a lot. I tried to become a time bender. It's hard. I can't remember what book that is. I don't know. It'll come back to me later.
The Big Leap talks about it as far as having the mindset of I always have enough time by Gay Hendricks. It's so good. I remember.
I think that's up there.
Yeah, having this thought that I don't have enough time or I'm always late. I don't have enough time. That was something I used to say a lot. I don't have enough time. And I still probably say it, but I always have enough time. And even if I start to feel myself, because these are all practices that are never, ever mastered, but start to feeling like I don't have enough time today, rewrite that story, rewrite that belief, tell myself I always have enough time. There's always enough time.
Anytime I feel like that one's coming up for me a lot, it's usually that I'm expanding into a new level or something new in my business that feels overwhelming. And my brain is spending so much time trying to avoid stepping into it that I feel like I don't have time. I have just as much time as I have any other day.
That's powerful. So do you have any practices to help you overcome your brain trying to step into that belief?
Yeah. So I have like a list of my regulating activities, like things that make me feel grounded, calm. So it just depends where I'm at. Sometimes it's a dance party. Sometimes it's grounding and meditating and breathing. But it's always allowing the actual fear to come through, like recognizing and allowing what the actual fear is, showing some gratitude to it because it's there to protect me. It's not there to sabotage me and like keep me small. And then moving into something like building some safety and some grounding. I think that one's hard for me because I feel like I'm a pretty open book these days. Like if you don't catch me online sharing my whole life story. So I feel like I'm a pretty open book. That said, my biggest fear in life is being misunderstood. So something that I wish they knew about me is, I always want everyone to know that everything I do is from a place of service. That's something I want people to know about me. It was something I wish they knew about me. I'm not sure. I feel like I'm a pretty open book where anything about me that I want out there is kind of going to be out there in the world.
Is there anything that you don't want out there?
Also a good question. I'm sure there are things that there's plenty of stories that I wouldn't share with the whole world, right? Like I will share, when I say I'm an open book, I am, but I'm not going to share things that I want to keep close to my heart. But about me as a person, no, I feel like I am who you see is who you get. I'm a pretty straightforward at this point in my life. I wouldn't have said that 5 years ago, but at this point in my life, Who you see, who you meet is what you're going to get.
One of the biggest things I think women struggle with showing up online is being misunderstood. If I put this piece of content out there, what if people take it the wrong way?
Yeah.
There's no way to actually control how they receive it. Is that something that you ever experienced stopping you from showing up online? And if so, how did you work through that?
Absolutely. Like I said, being misunderstood is one of my biggest fears. And it was one that I had to probably work through first before I could show up online at all. And this comes from the coach that I'm working with now, is safety affirmations have been a really big part of my life. And just creating safety affirmations, it's safe to be misunderstood. Like speaking to that part of my brain that needs to know that it's safe and creating new patterns for it to recognize that it's okay. It doesn't actually matter what they think or how it lands with them. And I think also just time and proof, right? Like now I don't have as much of that because I've been doing this long enough that I have enough people I've worked with. So I have time and proof and responses, and I've been able to see how it helps their life for me to put myself out there and share my story. So, that builds our confidence in being able to share it safely and not be so afraid of being misunderstood.
I love that thought. It's safe to be misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
It's not dangerous to be misunderstood.
Yeah. Allowing biggest fears and turning them into, it's safe to slow down. Like for me, that was a big one. Learning that it was safe to slow down. Learning that it's safe to be myself, that I'm enough. All of those things were like a big part of stepping out and becoming more visible.
It's almost like whatever your biggest fear is, to tell yourself that that's actually safe to experience. It's like kryptonite to the fear.
Create a new neural pathway where your body doesn't see it as a trigger and it's like, oh, okay. And then every time you celebrate it and like do something new, like posting a post used to be terrifying for me. Making a reel used to be terrifying. But every time I did it, like celebrating, okay, it's okay. I did that. I'm safe. Nothing about me has changed. It reframes and it builds new pathways where your brain is eventually like, okay, this one's not a thing anymore.
What advice would you give to the woman listening that really connected with your kind of before story? Where would you tell her to take that first step?
Where to take that first step? Well, I'm a coach, so I'm always going to say to find some support. But I really do truly believe that. Like, I don't believe that we are meant to do life alone. So that would be what I would tell her, is to find support, whether that's a friend or a professional. Find some support that can allow you the space to safely find who you are and take steps into that.
Where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Caroline Brown Coaching. I'm very boring across the book. They can find my website at carolinebrowncoaching.com. And that's pretty much it.
Well, this has been so fun. Thank you for sharing your story and your heart. And is there anything else that you'd like to say before we hop off?
No, thanks for having me. This was so fun.
Oh, this has been a blast. I'm so grateful to be connected to you. So have a good day.
Thanks.
What if the version of you that you're searching for is actually just the real you finally set free? Caroline's journey is proof that transformation doesn't happen when you have it all figured out. It begins the moment that you decide to stop abandoning yourself. If something in this episode stirred anything in your spirit, follow Caroline at Caroline Brown Coaching on Instagram. Share this with a friend who you know is ready for more, and don't forget to leave a review. It helps us keep these powerful conversations coming. And remember, you are not too much, your dreams are not too big, and your purpose was never meant to stay hidden. Let's rise together.